In Beirut, the unthinkable begins. Palestinian factions surrender weapons from refugee camps long beyond state control. A fragile first step towards disarming armed groups, and a test of whether Hezbollah could be next. But unity is fractured, factions resist, and Israel watches closely. Amid the handovers, an Israeli captive quietly returns home. Hope, defiance, and danger now collide in Lebanon's uncertain path to stability. Lebanon said that some Palestinian factions began handing over weapons held in a refugee camp on the outskirts of Beirut to the Lebanese army on August 21st. An initial step in implementing a plan officials announced 3 months earlier for removing arms from the camps. It was a modest first step. One pickup left the Burj al-Barajneh refugee camp in Beirut's southern suburbs loaded with light weapons packed in bags. The butts of machine guns could be seen protruding from some of the sacks. An AFP photographer saw a truck filled with weapons and ammunition being transported from the camp to a nearby parking lot, where Lebanese army vehicles and personnel were deployed to inspect the cargo. The step of removing weapons from the camps was seen as a precursor to the much more difficult step of disarming Iran-backed terror group Hezbollah, which last year fought a bruising war with Israel that ended in a ceasefire in November. Hezbollah has been under domestic and international pressure since then to give up its remaining arsenal, which it has so far refused to do. However, complicating matters, several Palestinian factions issued a statement distancing themselves from the agreement, vowing not to give up their weapons. That underscored the challenges facing Lebanon's fragile effort to curb the influence of armed groups inside the camps, which have long been considered outside the full control of the state.
Certain media outlets spread reports about intentions to hand over weapons inside the Palestinian camps, especially at Burj al-Barajneh. We, the Palestinian factions in Lebanon, stress that this report is completely false and has no connection to reality. What took place inside Burj al-Barajneh is an internal organizational matter for Fatah and has nothing to do with the question of Palestinian arms in the camps. Our weapons have always been, and will remain, tied to the right of return and the Palestinian cause. They will continue to serve that purpose as long as the occupation remains on the land of Palestine, and will be used only in confrontation with the Zionist enemy until our people achieve their right of return, freedom, and the establishment of their independent state on their land.
An estimated 280,000 to 520,000 Palestinians live in Lebanon and are considered refugees, though only around 230,000 are registered with UNRWA, the UN agency responsible for their care. Most reside in 12 refugee camps, including Ain al-Hilweh, Mar Elias, Rashidiyeh, and Nar al-Barid, where they face poor education and health services and what humanitarian groups describe as dire conditions. A central problem for the Lebanese state is the large quantity of weapons held in these camps by Palestinian organizations, which have long operated with a high degree of autonomy. The decision to remove weapons from the Palestinian camps was announced in May during a visit by Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to Lebanon, during which he and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun announced that arms would be consolidated under the authority of the Lebanese government. Badi al-Habet, a spokesperson for Fatah in Beirut, told reporters that Aoun had acknowledged that personal weapons are part of Arab and national culture, and that Thursday would see the turning over of illegitimate weapons in the hands of illegitimate individuals.
We will hand over these illegal heavy and medium weapons, as well as personal weapons, and those possessed by Palestinian national security personnel, while retaining legal weapons. We support the statement by the commander of the Lebanese army, General Joseph Aoun, that these weapons are part of Arab and Lebanese culture and are held by most Lebanese people and residents. This process is being carried out in close coordination between the Palestinian Authority, the Lebanese presidency, and the Lebanese government. The issues of civil and social rights, as well as property and work rights, of Palestinians in refugee camps will also be addressed.
Ramez Dimashkia, head of the Lebanese Palestinian Dialogue Committee, a government body that serves as an interlocutor between Palestinian refugees and officials, said in a statement that the handover will be the first step, with further batches to be delivered in the coming weeks from Burj al-Barajneh camp and the rest of the camps. US envoy Tom Barrack congratulated the Lebanese government and Fatah for their agreement on voluntary disarmament in Beirut camps. In a post on X, he called it a historic step toward unity and stability, showing true commitment to peace and cooperation. Earlier this week, Barrack said following Beirut's commitment to disarm Hezbollah, it was Israel's turn to make good on its side of the ceasefire, apparently referring to the retreat of troops back into Israel. US network Axios reported on August 21st that US officials had asked Israel to temporarily cut back on strikes in Lebanon deemed non-urgent and pull troops from one border point as a show of good faith in support of the Lebanese effort. Though officials doubt Beirut is strong enough to forcibly disarm Hezbollah, they hope Israel's move will help give it the needed maneuverability to seize the terror group's weapons. Meanwhile, an Israeli citizen who spent more than a year imprisoned in Lebanon was released on August 21st in what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called a positive step and a sign of things to come. The freed man, identified as Salah Abu Hussein, is from the northern village of Rumana and suffers from mental illness, according to his family. He disappeared in July 2024 while working in Tel Aviv. Relatives said they filed a missing person report with police, but only learned on August 21st that he had crossed into Lebanon and been detained there.
For all this time, we didn't know he was in Lebanon. We are very happy he came back alive. The government worked to bring him back without telling us, and today we finally learned the details.
The Prime Minister's office said Abu Hussein's return was achieved without any prisoner exchange and that the circumstances of the case are under security review. Israel's coordinator for captives and missing persons, retired Brigadier General Gal Hirsch, handled negotiations through the International Committee of the Red Cross, which facilitated his release after months of quiet contacts. Israeli officials also emphasized that the United States was not involved in securing Abu Hussein's freedom and that the matter was handled strictly through the Red Cross. Some analysts suggested the precedent could eventually open the door to similar involvement in Gaza, where the organization has so far played no role in negotiations over Israeli hostages.